Go back to our all-important chocolate conversation now. I'm joined via Skype by consumer journalist Wendy Knowler. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you are normally very busy on social media and the various platforms you write for, solving some very serious consumer issues for ordinary South Africans out there. But this week, that was overtaken by the great chocolate panic. Why did it cause such consternation?
I think you alluded to it a little earlier, Marcel. I think, we South Africans, and it's had to be the case that we've given up a lot of personal freedoms. We've had cigarettes, the sale of cigarettes banned. We've now had the alcohol thing happen again. We wake up on a Sunday morning, for example, or whatever, we can't see our families and all those things. So now, when we read on social media that Peppermint Crisp and Bar One and Chocolate Log are over, they're not going to be sold till the end of the month, I think it's just another, something that's been taken away, something familiar, something that means, this is normal life in South Africa is now under threat. And I think, I had 3 deadlines on Friday, and I had to sort of drop all of them and go to Nestle and say, what's going on? Because that notice that was doing the rounds just mentioned, didn't give any context, just said, this Bar One, that's Peppermint Crisp, this quality sweet flavor, being discontinued. And of course the photo was shared and it caused panic. But for me, the clue is that they gave the sizes on most of them. And I thought that was a clue to me that they were just discontinuing certain sizes and maybe flavors, and not these iconic South African chocolate across the board. And that did turn out to be the case. I think even Nestle was surprised by the amount of attention this issue got.
Well, I do think because that was a rumor flighted, I think, earlier this year or late last year when it again was around Peppermint Crisp being discontinued. That is really a South African classic, especially because it's part of a South African classic dessert, isn't it?
Tart, yes.
But now the chocolates that are being discontinued, Chocolate Log, Milky Bar Peanut, Bar One Peanut and Milo. What do they have against peanuts? Are we not liking peanuts anymore as consumers?
Well, I think that's the thing. Either the peanut allergy and the incidence in the population really escalated. I think more likely, they're not going to discontinue anything if they're really huge sellers. So it would tell me, obviously, that the demand had fallen off. And also they want to bring in some new lines. There's one that includes Kit Kat Chunky Salted Caramel, for example. So I suppose you can't keep, there's only a certain amount of shelf space, right? So this is a process that happens from time to time. But I think it was the thought of that, it wasn't the lack of context around these names and being attached to the word discontinued that caused the problem. So I've tweeted the information that was retweeted, I don't know how many times. Oh, okay. Peppermint Crisp is safe. Okay, we can relax.
Crisp dessert is safe. Do you know how much consumer research goes into these decisions that are being made? Obviously, they look at the numbers of sales, but do they do things like focus groups and that kind of thing? Because, the statement from Nestle said that we know that one of the main drivers of the chocolate category is innovation and that consumers love new products. I actually think as consumers, we're very set in our ways when it comes to things like chocolate, and we don't like new things. Does that form part of their research before they make these business decisions?
Look, I think it must, because there's a lot at stake, a lot of money involved in launching something new, the packaging, the innovation, everything else. So it stands to reason that they would, a global company like Nestle. I'll be very surprised if they didn't. Having said that, however, there are new products or changes to products that happen where the companies, global companies, claim to have done that kind of focus group research that totally bombs. It's not a food product, but the one that stands out for me is, do you remember when they took the Sunlight dishwashing liquid bottle and they created a new one that was upside down and you gave it a press and a 33 decided amount of liquid came out, but it was always too much, and it's a conspiracy theory. And people, serious South African journalists around columns about this. I did a whole packaging feature around it. Anyway, they relented and changed and reverted back to the original, which we still have today. But there again, Unilever said that we did massive research, and everybody loved that new, it was called the Tuttle or something like that. So, there be others that are not coming to mind as I sit here, but so I do wonder about the nature of such research when they get it so horribly wrong. whether Nestle is getting it wrong in this case by discontinuing the chocolate log or the certain bar one peanut, whatever, remains to be seen. But I also didn't like the idea of chocolate log. I used to eat that chocolate as a child, but if I think about it now, when last did I have one? I can't tell you, and I think that might be the same for many others.
Yeah, indeed. I must admit, it made me think of when they discontinued Tempo Bar, because I quite liked that, and then all we were left with was that 5-star. And then I thought, but Marcel, maybe your taste is not what the broader market is, and maybe that's what we need to come to terms with. But that's not going to stop us from moaning about it on social media and to a consumer journalist, Wendy Knowler, is it?
Exactly. We feel the pride. It's a familiar thing on the shelves, and now it's not going to be there. We don't like that because so much is unfamiliar and alienating in our lives at the moment, and this just feels like another thing.
Well, we thank you for making our voices heard on very serious issues like what chocolates are available. Thank you so much. Consumer journalist Wendy Knowler joining us live there via Skype, always on top of these very important things that affect our daily lives. We'll have more news when we return. Do stay with us.